The luminescent fluid in Alara's life support chamber was draining. Not a malfunction, a deliberate act. Through the translucent walls of her pod, she watched as the last of her kind filed out of the research station, their elongated silhouettes disappearing one by one without a backward glance. Defective. That's what the Council had deemed her. A genetic anomaly that made her unsuitable for the Great Migration. Her sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, once considered a gift among her people, had been reclassified as a dangerous mutation when it began to intensify beyond normal parameters. Rather than waste resources transporting a flawed specimen, they had simply left her behind. The station systems would fail within days without maintenance. A merciful death, they'd called it. Better than the pain she would endure if they took her along. Alara pressed a six-fingered hand against the chamber wall. Her iridescent skin, normally a healthy violet, had faded to a sickly lavender. The markings along her arms, unique patterns that told her lineage, pulsed weakly as her body struggled to maintain homeostasis. System failure imminent. Oxygen levels at 42%, announced the station's AI in the melodic language of her people. Alara slid to the floor as the chamber finished draining, her breathing labored in the thinning atmosphere. She had always known she was different, felt too deeply, sensed too much, but never imagined her own people would abandon her to die alone in the cold embrace of space. Her specialized eyes, with pupils that split horizontally rather than rounded like others of her kind, scanned the darkening laboratory. Equipment lay scattered where it had been hastily abandoned, research half completed. 3 lunar cycles of work, preparing for the migration to a new home world, now irrelevant. The lights flickered, then dimmed as the station diverted remaining power to critical systems. Alara crawled to the observation deck, dragging her weakening body across cold metal floors. If these were to be her final hours, she wanted to see the stars one last time. The vast window revealed the glittering expanse of space, beautiful and indifferent to her fate. Her home planet was already a distant point of light, growing fainter as the migration ships activated their drives. Soon they would jump to hyperspace, leaving this depleted solar system, and her, behind forever. Alara's vision blurred with tears she could no longer biologically produce. Her species had evolved beyond such displays, but the emotion remained. Abandoned. Forgotten. Defective. A sharp pain shot through her skull as her neural pathways detected something, a disturbance in the electromagnetic fields surrounding the station. She gasped, clutching her head. This was why they had left her. These episodes were becoming more frequent, more intense. Soon they would kill her anyway. The station trembled. Not from system failure, something external. Proximity alerts wailed briefly before failing with the rest of the non-essential systems. Through the observation window, Alara spotted it, a small vessel approaching, unlike any her people used. Its design was asymmetrical, practical rather than elegant, bearing unfamiliar markings. Humans. She had studied them during her research. Unpredictable, emotional beings from a distant system. What were they doing here, so far from their territories? The vessel docked with a grinding shudder that reverberated through the station. Alara dragged herself toward the airlock, curiosity momentarily overriding her pain. The inner door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure, and a figure stepped through. It was shorter than her people, encased in a protective suit with a transparent helmet. Inside was a face unlike her own, flatter features, rounded eyes, skin a warm brown rather than the cool colors of her kind. The human's gaze met hers, widening in surprise. "Hello," a deep voice called out, the universal translator on his suit converting it to something approximating her language. "Is anyone else alive here?" Alara collapsed as another wave of pain crashed through her neural pathways. The last thing she saw before consciousness faded was the human rushing toward her, arms outstretched. Marcus hadn't expected to find anyone alive on the abandoned station. His salvage mission was supposed to be straightforward: recover valuable tech from what sensors indicated was a recently abandoned alien outpost, and get back to Outpost Vega before anyone noticed he'd gone off course. Instead, he found himself carrying an unconscious alien woman through the corridors of his ship, the Horizon Seeker. Her body was alarmingly light, as if her bones were hollow, and her skin emitted a faint purple luminescence that pulsed erratically. In the med bay, Marcus gently placed Elara on the examination table. The ship's medical AI activated with a soft chime. Unknown species detected. Biological analysis required. Do what you can, Marcus instructed, removing his helmet. His dark hair was matted with sweat, face lined with concern. She collapsed right in front of me. The station was losing oxygen fast. The scanner hummed as it passed over Elara's body. Marcus studied her alien features with fascination. Though humanoid, everything about her was slightly different: elongated limbs, six-fingered hands, and when her eyes had briefly met his, he'd seen horizontal pupils unlike anything human. Elara's body suddenly convulsed, her back arching as if in pain. Her eyes flew open, and she screamed, a sound that sent Marcus staggering backward, hands clasped over his ears. It wasn't just loud, it seemed to vibrate through his skull, setting his teeth on edge. Neural distress detected, the medical AI announced. Unusual electromagnetic activity in cerebral regions. Marcus recovered, approaching cautiously. Hey, it's okay. You're safe, he said, knowing she probably couldn't understand him. His translator was designed for common galactic languages, not whatever her species spoke. Elara's gaze darted around the unfamiliar surroundings. When she saw Marcus, she pressed herself against the wall, hands raised defensively. Symbols on her skin glowed brightly, pulsing in patterns that seemed almost like language. I'm not going to hurt you, Marcus said slowly, raising his own hands to mirror her gesture. My name is Marcus. You were dying. I brought you to my ship. The medical AI projected a holographic display of Elara's vital signs. Subject is severely dehydrated. Requires immediate fluid replacement compatible with biology. Marcus nodded, slowly reaching for a hydration pack. Elara flinched but didn't scream again. He offered it to her from a distance, demonstrating how to use it by mimicking drinking. After several tense moments, Elara cautiously accepted the pack. She sniffed it suspiciously before taking a tentative sip. Her eyes widened, and she quickly drained the contents. Physiological improvement detected, the AI reported. Over the next few hours, Marcus maintained his distance, occasionally offering more hydration packs which Elara accepted with decreasing hesitation. He spoke constantly in a low, soothing voice, not caring that she couldn't understand. It seemed to calm her. By the third hour, Elara had moved from the corner. She pointed to herself and made a series of melodic sounds. Elara. Marcus smiled, pointing to himself. Marcus. She repeated his name, the pronunciation slightly off but recognizable. Then, to his surprise, she touched the translator on his discarded suit and pointed to her throat, then to his. You want a translator? Smart. Marcus rummaged through his equipment storage until he found a spare universal translator. He demonstrated how to attach it near her vocal apparatus, and after some hesitation, she allowed him to help her. Can understand now? The translator rendered her melodic language into choppy standard. Yes. Marcus grinned. What happened to you? Why were you alone on that station? Elara's horizontal pupils contracted. Left behind. Defective. Defective? You? Feel too much. She tapped her head. Pain. Sensors here. Not like others. Marcus frowned. They abandoned you because you were different? Elara nodded, the gesture clearly learned rather than native to her species. Die with dignity. Station failing. Well, you're not dying today, Marcus stated firmly. We're headed to Outpost Vega. There's a xenobiologist there who might be able to help you. Elara stared at him, her alien features unreadable. Why help defective one? Marcus shrugged. Where I come from, being different isn't a death sentence. It's just being human. Not human, Elara corrected. Figure of speech. Marcus smiled. Get some rest. We've got a long journey ahead. As Elara finally drifted to sleep, Marcus watched the steady pulsing of the markings on her skin. Whatever her people had deemed a defect had likely saved her life. If she hadn't been in that station when he arrived, he would never have known anyone had been left behind. He wondered what other surprises this alien woman might hold. The Horizon Seeker drifted through the void, its engines humming steadily as it carried its 2 occupants toward Outpost Vega. 3 days had passed since Marcus had rescued Elara from the abandoned station, and in that time, a fragile understanding had begun to form between them. Elara sat cross-legged on the observation deck, watching the stars streak by. The universal translator at her throat had been modified to better process her language, though it still struggled with complex concepts. Your vessel, she said as Marcus entered with their meals, smaller than expected for interstellar travel. Marcus laughed, handing her a bowl of synthesized nutrients calibrated to her alien physiology. The Horizon Seeker isn't exactly fleet-approved. She's a salvage scout, small enough to go unnoticed, big enough to haul valuable finds. Salvage. Elara tested the word. You collect abandoned things. Things, technology, materials. Marcus sat beside her, careful to maintain the distance she preferred. He'd learned that proximity intensified what she called her sensing, the painful electromagnetic sensitivity that had caused her people to abandon her. Like me, Elara said quietly. Abandoned thing. Marcus frowned. You're not a thing, Elara. You're a person. She turned her strange eyes toward him. Person with defect. A difference, Marcus corrected, not a defect. And from what you've told me, your sensitivity seems more like an evolutionary advantage your people aren't ready to understand. Over the past days, Elara had explained more about her species, the Vereen. They were a highly collective society with strict biological hierarchies. Her heightened electromagnetic sensitivity, which allowed her to detect energy fields, emotions, and even thoughts at a primitive level, threatened their carefully structured society. Vereen fear change, she said, absently tracing the luminescent patterns on her arm. Sensing brings chaos. Unpredictability. Humans thrive on unpredictability, Marcus replied. It's how we've survived. We adapt. Elara's markings pulsed brighter, indicating interest. Show me adapting. Marcus smiled and pulled up the ship's holographic display. Here's Earth, where humans originated. The image showed a blue-green planet. Our species evolved in thousands of different environments. We look different, think differently, have different abilities. Those differences kept us alive. He swiped through images of diverse human populations across various colony worlds. When we found we couldn't breathe certain atmospheres, we built tech to help us. When gravity was wrong, we modified ourselves. Always changing, always adapting. Elara studied the images intently. No abandonment for difference? Oh, we've done plenty of that too, Marcus admitted soberly. We've had wars over differences smaller than eye color. But we learned, eventually, that diversity makes us stronger. Elara suddenly winced, her markings flaring bright. Her hands flew to her temples as she doubled over in pain. Marcus moved instinctively to help, then stopped, remembering her sensitivity. What's wrong? Energy surge, she gasped. Something approaching. Large. Marcus checked his instruments, finding nothing. But Alara had proven remarkably accurate about such things before. He hurried to the cockpit, activating the advanced sensors. There, just at the edge of detection range, a large vessel with its identifiers disabled. Pirates, Marcus muttered. This region was supposedly clear, but desperate scavengers went wherever salvage might be found. He returned to find Alara struggling to her feet. Danger, she stated. Yes. We need to hide. Marcus plotted a course toward a nearby nebula, where the ionic interference would mask their signature. Your sensing just saved us both. Alara's markings pulsed with surprise. Defect, useful? More than useful, Marcus replied, guiding the ship into emergency thrust. If you hadn't sensed them, we'd be boarded before my instruments even picked them up. As they slipped into the nebula's protective embrace, Alara stood beside Marcus in the cockpit, closer than she'd ever voluntarily come before. Marcus, she said, her alien voice carrying emotion the translator couldn't fully capture, thank you for salvaging me. He glanced up at her, noticing the healthier violet tone her skin had regained. Some things are worth salvaging not for what they are, but for what they might become. For the first time since he'd foe. Outpost Vega loomed before them, a sprawling structure of interconnected modules and docking arms extending from a hollowed-out asteroid. Ships of various designs swarmed around it like insects, carrying goods and passengers from a dozen different systems. So many, Alara whispered, her markings pulsing rapidly with anxiety. After 3 weeks aboard the Horizon Seeker with only Marcus for company, the prospect of encountering crowds overwhelmed her senses. Stay close to me, Marcus advised as they docked. Vega's used to non-humans, but your species isn't known here. The docking procedures complete, Marcus helped Alara into a hooded cloak he'd synthesized for her. It would conceal her distinctive features and provide some electromagnetic shielding to dampen her sensitivity. As they stepped through the airlock into the Outpost's arrival terminal, Alara stiffened. Even with the cloak's protection, the bombardment of energy signatures from hundreds of beings and machines threatened to overwhelm her. Focus on me, Marcus murmured, offering his hand, a gesture he'd taught her indicated support. After a moment's hesitation, Alara placed her 6-fingered hand in his. The touch grounded her. They navigated through the crowded terminal toward the medical sector where Dr. Talia Ferris, the xenobiologist Marcus had contacted, waited. Alara drew curious glances but no outright hostility, until they passed a group of traders from the Orion Syndicate. That one's Vereen, one hissed, pointing at Alara. Thought they all left this sector. Marcus tightened his grip on Alara's hand, quickening their pace. But the traders blocked their path. Vereen stole territorial rights from our mining consortium, a hulking trader accused. Left us with worthless claims when they migrated. That has nothing to do with us, Marcus replied firmly. We're here to see Dr. Ferris. Let the Vereen answer, the trader demanded, reaching for Alara's hood. Before Marcus could intervene, Alara's markings flared brilliantly beneath her cloak. The trader suddenly stumbled backward as if struck, clutching his head. She's a dampener, he gasped. Psychic defense. Run. The traders scattered, leaving a confused Marcus staring at Alara. What just happened? Reversed energy flow, she explained quietly. Sent his hostility back. Not hurt, just surprised. A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. You never mentioned you could do that. Never tried before, Alara admitted. Adaptation, like humans do. At the medical facility, Dr. Ferris, a woman with silver-streaked hair and cybernetic enhancements around her eyes, examined Alara with professional curiosity. Fascinating, she murmured, studying scanner results. Your neural pathways are uniquely configured. Your people considered this a defect? Threat to collective harmony, Alara explained. Dr. Ferris shook her head. Their loss. You're not defective, you're evolved. These abilities could be tremendously valuable. Valuable? Ilara's markings pulsed questioningly. The Stellar Coalition would pay handsomely for natural electromagnetic sensors like yours, Dr. Ferris explained. Their deep space exploration teams lose ships to unforeseen energy anomalies all the time. Marcus frowned. She's not some tech to be sold to the highest bidder. Of course not, Dr. Ferris agreed. But it's an opportunity for her to use her abilities purposefully. To find belonging. Later, in their assigned quarters, Ilara found Marcus standing by the viewport, unusually quiet. You disagree with Dr. Ferris, she observed. Marcus sighed. I don't want you traded from one use to another. First your people used you for research, then abandoned you when you didn't fit their plans. Now the Coalition wants your abilities. What alternative exists? Freedom to choose, Marcus said. To decide your own purpose. Ilara moved closer, her markings glowing softly. Purpose already found. What's that? Life that was salvaged deserves to be lived fully, she said. With person who saw value when others saw defect. Understanding dawned in Marcus's eyes. Without warning, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the room in red. Unidentified energy anomaly approaching, announced the station's AI. All personnel to emergency stations. Ilara's markings flared bright. I sense it, she whispered. Like nothing before. Marcus looked at her, realization dawning. Can you help them? Ilara nodded. Adaptation time. The observation deck of Outpost Vega buzzed with frantic activity as officers and scientists monitored the approaching anomaly, a roiling mass of energy that defied conventional analysis. Through the massive viewport, it glowed with an ominous blue-white radiance, distorting the space around it. All attempts to disperse or deflect it have failed, Commander Oren reported grimly. Evacuation procedures initiated, but we won't get everyone off in time. Marcus and Ilara stood at the back of the room, watching the chaos unfold. Dr. Ferris approached them, her expression urgent. The Coalition representatives want to speak with Ilara, she said. They believe her sensitivity might provide insights their instruments cannot. Ilara's markings pulsed rapidly, but she remained calm. Not for Coalition. For all here. She stepped forward, lowering her hood. Gasps rippled through the room as her alien features and glowing markings were revealed. I sense its pattern, she announced, her translator rendering her musical language into clear standard. Not hostile. Lost. Searching. Commander Oren frowned skeptically. It's destroyed 2 unmanned outposts already. Accidental, Ilara insisted. It seeks resonance. Harmony. She turned to Marcus. Like me. Understanding dawned in his eyes. It's trying to communicate? Yes. Ilara approached the viewport, placing her 6-fingered hand against the transparent barrier. I can align. Redirect. That's too dangerous, Marcus protested. The energy levels could kill you. Ilara turned to him, her alien face serene. Trust adaptation. Before anyone could stop her, she closed her eyes and focused. Her markings blazed with intense light, patterns shifting rapidly across her skin. Outside, the energy anomaly pulsed in response, its chaotic movements gradually becoming more rhythmic. The station's instruments wailed warnings as power fluctuations cascaded through systems. Ilara gasped in pain but maintained her focus, her body becoming a conduit between the station and the anomaly. She's creating a harmonic resonance, Dr. Ferris realized, watching her instruments. Synchronizing our electromagnetic field with it. The anomaly's movement slowed, then stabilized. Its color shifted from threatening blue-white to a peaceful violet, remarkably similar to Ilara's natural skin tone. "It understands," Ilara whispered, sweat beading on her brow. "Lonely. Ancient. Birth of star gone wrong. Energy without form." With a final surge of effort, Ilara directed the anomaly away from the station, guiding it toward an uninhabited region of space. As its deadly potential receded, the emergency alarms silenced. Ilara collapsed into Marcus's waiting arms. Hours later, she awakened in the medical bay to find herself surrounded by station officials, coalition representatives, and Marcus, who hadn't left her side. "You saved everyone," he said, relief evident in his voice. "The coalition offers you citizenship and a position with our Xenophysics division," a formal representative announced. "Your abilities are unprecedented. The station grants you permanent residence rights," Commander Oren added. "We need a protective early warning system for other anomalies." Ilara sat up slowly, looking at the eager faces around her, all wanting something from her unique abilities. Then her gaze settled on Marcus. "What do you want?" she asked him softly. "For you to choose your own path," he answered honestly. "Whatever makes you feel whole, not just useful." 3 days later, Ilara stood in the docking bay beside the Horizon Seeker. She wore new clothing designed specifically for her biology, with openings that allowed her markings to show proudly. "Decision made?" Marcus asked, loading the last of their supplies. "Yes." Her markings pulsed with determination. "Coalition needs understanding of anomalies. We'll consult, not join. Station needs warning system. We'll design, not become." "And what do you need?" Marcus asked. "Freedom to explore difference," she replied. "Stars hold more like me. More anomalies. More misunderstood." Marcus grinned. "Sounds like a salvage mission to me." "Not salvage," Ilara corrected, her translator conveying the warmth in her voice. "Reclamation. Of worth. Of purpose." As the Horizon Seeker detached from Outpost Vega, Ilara stood in the cockpit beside Marcus, no longer afraid of her proximity triggering pain. She had learned to control her sensitivity, to transform it from weakness to strength. Through the viewport, stars beckoned, each one a potential home for beings and phenomena as misunderstood as she had been. Each one an opportunity to bridge worlds through understanding. "Where to first?" Marcus asked. Ilara's markings glowed with a soft, content light as she pointed toward a distant star cluster. "Where anomalies gather. Where differences become strengths." The ship accelerated smoothly into the void, carrying with it two beings who had found in each other's differences not defects to be feared, but gifts to be treasured. As Ilara had been reborn among the stars, so too might others waiting to be discovered, waiting to be understood. Not abandoned. Not forgotten. Just different. And in that difference lay the universe's greatest potential.